It's a beautiful Sunday, and we have a lot of information to share, so I definitely wanted to get started. All right, so let's go for it. Okay, so welcome, everybody. I am Brett McSweeney, the woman behind the emails that you've been receiving. And I want to first thank Columbia University and the staff of the forum who are working on a Sunday to make sure that we are all armed with our political power. And let's get started. Okay, first, the most important questions, the restrooms. I encourage you, you can access them through the foyer if you use this entrance here. Back where the reception was set up, there's the entrance to the women's room, to the men's room. On the third floor upstairs, there's a gender-neutral bathroom. Regarding the reception, we'll replenish cheese and crackers and water, and if you are feeling famished, please feel free to enjoy a refreshment. No food is allowed in here, but the screens that you saw in the foyer will be streaming this so you won't miss a thing, okay? There is a lactation room also connected to the women's restroom for anyone who needs it. I don't know, did I mention no food in this auditorium? Absolutely, okay. We'll do Q&A. You've seen the microphones are set up on the side. After sort of two portions, this will be split up into two sections. After each section, we'll do a Q&A, and we'll end with a Q&A at the end as well. So just sort of hold your question as you're thinking about it. I encourage everyone to think of their question as if they were going to tweet it, right? Short, concise, to the point, okay? Questions, not comments. Materials. They will be distributed by email after this session to everyone who RSVP'd. We do have a few of the guides. You'll be receiving this PowerPoint and a guide prepared by the State Committee. For those who are just not email friendly, Douglas from the State Committee, who's over here so nicely dressed, will have guides available. So if you're one of those people, please don't leave without seeing Douglas, okay? And additional workshops. So this is just organized by Eleanor's Legacy today, but the State Committee will be holding additional forums, workshops around the state and probably around the city from now and the next few weeks through the rest of the fall. So if you loved what you heard and want to come back and bring a friend, then be sure to sign up with Douglas when you leave here today for more information. All right, so let's see. All right, the schedule, so you all know, we're going to introduce our Borough President, Gail Brewer, in a moment. Douglas will go over the delegate selection plan. These times are rough. These times are flexible. We'll be joined by Randy Weingarten to talk about the delegate experience, the president of the AFT. And again, we'll follow up and end with general Q&A because I'm sure you'll have a lot as we go. So who we are, follow us on social media. We are Eleanor's Legacy, and if you looked at that invitation you received, you saw we had an endless number of sponsor organizations, starting with the AFT. I believe many of you should have received or will be receiving from our friend from the AFT, Daryl, just a handout. Yesterday was the Labor Day Parade in New York City. Yes, for everyone who marched. But we wanted to just remind everyone why we often partner with the union movement and especially the women who lead the organized labor movement. And so Daryl will be handing these out to you. And then if you're in the room, and if I announce you the partner organization and you are the leader or you were the designee to attend today, just stand so everyone can see who you are. The 21 and 21 Initiative, electing women to the City Council. The Black Women's Political Club. Kat from the Broad Room, who was greeting many of you at the door. Asia Badi from Engage Action, working to increase Muslim Americans' political power. Move Forward Staten Island. Did the women from Staten Island make it here? Look at you. Well done. Gold Star. And Women of Color for Progress, who are both here today. So I encourage you, if you aren't already members, aren't already receiving information from these organizations, please follow them. And of course, the Manhattan Democratic Committee, our friends at the American Federation of Teachers, and our United Federation of Teachers, who are represented here by Bridget Ryan and Cassie Prue. Thank you, teachers. This is your first Sunday back, maybe, or second Sunday back. I appreciate you taking the time. All right, so 280 women and male allies signed up today. You represent all 5 boroughs. You represent 20-plus unions. And 94% of you are interested in running for the first time to be a delegate. So who all is here for the first time learning how to be a delegate? All right, now turn to the person next to you. High five. because knowing is half the battle. And you all are getting a jump start because this is the first delegate selection forum that we're hosting. So let's get presidential. But before we get presidential on the federal level, I want to introduce our Manhattan Borough President, a member of the Board of Directors of Eleanor's Legacy, and the woman who said, "Why don't you just have this at the forum?" Gail Brewer.
Oh, thank you very much, Brett. You know, Brett is amazing. She can not only run this and any other forum, no matter who's in the room, but she does a lot of work. So another round of applause for Brett McSweeney. So before I just greet you and say how honored, I just want to tell you two stories because I love stories. So one of them is when I tried to be a delegate, it was hysterical. It was many years ago, maybe 20 years ago. I don't even remember what who was running for what for presidential, but I know exactly where I was sitting. I was sitting on the second floor of St. Gregory's Church on 90th Street. I didn't know anybody in the room. And they apparently were having a forum like this to decide who should be a delegate. So I sat down in an empty chair. Well, it turns out I sat next to the wrong person. I didn't even know who it was. And in that world, if you sat next to somebody, they thought you were affiliated with that person, and they wouldn't pick you. I had no idea. So I didn't get picked because I was sitting next to the wrong person. That's not happening today, but that was my first experience of trying to be a delegate. And then most recently, I supported Hillary Clinton, and I want to thank definitely Basil Michael, who was then head of the Democratic Party in New York, because he was one of the people doing the picking, and I was fortunate. Now we're going to learn maybe a more small d democratic process where people will have less of you'll hear more the selection of those who are in the know, and hopefully everybody in this room will get selected. I have no idea, but I know I'm not going to sit next to the wrong person ever again. The second thing I want to say is how important women are in politics, and there was something very interesting today. Today was a Susan G. Komen, as many of you know, that's why I've got pink on today. 10,000 women and some men walking and running to support breast cancer research and hopefully getting rid of that horrible disease. And we were in Central Park, and it was interesting. Chuck Schumer comes every year, and he stated that there are two ways he's trying to get research money. Obviously, NIH, Institute of Health, nationally, and obviously in this time, in this country, that's a hard thing to do, but he's trying. And the second was the Department of Defense, because as he stated, where the money is where you should look for more money. Well, guess what? Some of you may remember Bella Abzug, member of Congress. The first breast cancer money for research ever gotten for women in the United States were through Bella and through the Department of Defense. So I'm thinking, maybe I'm the only asshole around for 100 years. But it is interesting, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And so we're in a very strange time in 2019. And what I say is, your voice is needed more than ever. So I thank you for being here today. I want to thank Eleanor's Legacy. When you hear these stories and how things are still the same, you have to go where the money is, and it's at the Department of Defense. That's a little scary. And we have to change it, because we have to have it be part of our everyday life, not through the Department of Defense. But I'm here to say simply, this is an incredibly important discussion. It's wonderful that it's sponsored by so many organizations, and it's also wonderful that there are so many organizations to do the sponsoring. And it's very exciting because there's no question that as the delegates get more diverse, then we're going to have a better platform, and you'll hear more about that, and we'll have a better, hopefully, change in our government. So I feel very strongly about why we're here is because we want to be inclusive. We know that women and people of color at the table, those issues will be part of the constituency organically, not through something like the Department of Defense. We're all striving for the same thing. We all want to make change in society. So I'm here to say welcome. We're not going to sugarcoat it. Politics is hard. It takes thick skin and determination. But if you focus on the greater good, it's worth it. As I said, now more than ever. It's really exciting when we saw the hands go up. Chung and I will, wow, that's great that there are so many people who are here for the first time on this issue. I know everybody in this room is working on many different things. And I think these challenges are real. It's a time to be smart and motivated and inspired, and that's why we're here. Progress isn't a sprint, it's a relay. I learned that from Bella and from all of you. Grab the baton, look around so you know who to pass it to next. That's really important. Something has to happen forever. So thank you for being here. No shit, you're our future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gail, for taking the time. I know our borough president, it's a large borough that you always find yourself traveling to and joining us in. And I want to be sure I emphasize, Gail, the borough president, is a member of our board of directors, and we're joined by two other members of the Eleanor's Legacy Board, who are Rose Pierre-Louis and Chung Sito. Chung is also a great resource. She's the former executive director of the state committee and has the stripes from a few presidential selection processes under her belt. So consider Chung and Rose and I a resource for you going forward as well. So let's get to it, shall we? All right, it is now my pleasure to introduce to you, all the way from the New York State Democratic Committee, Douglas Pardella, who has been working to shape the delegate selection plan for New York State, and he's going to walk us through the process. Please welcome Douglas.
Thank you. How about that? All right, thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having the New York State Democratic Committee here, everybody. Great to see you. Thank you for setting this up, Brett, and thank you to the Eleanor's Legacy. This rocks. The organization is fantastic. And we're really happy that we get to do this here. And holy cow, Gail Brewer spoke before me. I shouldn't be here. And then Brandy Weingartner is going to speak after me. And that's just wild. All right, so very exciting. I'm really excited to get started here. Yep, New York State Democratic Committee. That's us. It's great. We're here to help you become a delegate at the DNC. The DNC, this is the goal, is for you guys to be official delegates for New York, in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, from July 13th to July 16th. That's where we, as Democrats, are going to nominate the president and vice president. It's going to be great. Yes. All right, so how many delegates are there going to be in New York State? Well, originally it was supposed to be 270 with 19 alternates, but we said that's not enough. New York deserves more. So we got ourselves 25% bonus, two bonuses, 10% by having the primary in April, and 15% for holding it with neighboring states. We have a whole cluster of states up in the Northeast here, and it's going to be great. We've got now the second most delegates of any state in the country behind only California. We beat out Florida, yeah. We beat out Texas. It's us, baby. All right. Now, what kind of delegate can I be? Now, I Google searched DNC floor, and this was the 10th photo that came up. And so I think it was fate, and that's why it's there. Okay, so what you cannot be is an automatic delegate because you're not the governor of New York, unless Governor Cuomo's here. I don't see him. And then unless you're a U.S. senator. Technically, Chuck Schumer, Senator Schumer is a part of the DNC's delegation, so we don't technically get him. But we still got Kirsten Gillibrand. We have 21 members of Congress, representatives. Gregory Meeks is also a part of the DNC delegation. And then we have one distinguished party leader. How to become a distinguished party leader? You have to be Bill Clinton. He lives in New York State. He is a former president. I am not a former president, so I can't be a distinguished party leader. But you can be a pledged delegate. Fortunately, 86% of our delegates are pledged delegates. So that's going to be way easier to get anyway, unless you want to run for Congress, in which case, do that. That rocks. 184, so it's about 57, 58% are going to be district level delegates. That is what I recommend as many of us try to do. That is going to be the easiest way to get it, but it is going to take the most amount of work of the different types of delegate positions, and I'll explain further. Soon, you could also be an at-large delegate. You can be an at-large alternate. All of our alternates are going to be at-large so that we can just slip them in anywhere we have sort of a person drop out. Or you could be a party leader, an elected official, if you are an elected official, and you are chosen by the presidential candidate, and apply, and whatnot. And we'll get into that right now. Quickly, we're going to divert to talk about the district level position because it's a little more complicated. So it is split up by congressional district, and we are deciding to have it exactly split between male and female delegates. Now, that's okay. We accept and encourage non-binary delegates as well, and if we are lucky enough to have non-binary delegates, then they are not counted as either male or female, and the remaining delegation is split 50-50. And so it's how we decided at the numbers in each congressional district is decided by population proportionally, because some, even though they started in 2010, equal population, some grew faster than others over the past 9 years. And the other side is what share of the vote they voted for Obama in 2012 and Clinton in 2016. You combine that, and then you get this concoction right here. We're in New York 13 right now, which is tied for the most delegates going to DNC. That's right. We got 9, and so does New York 15. Great. So 6 steps to becoming a delegate. We're going to walk through them all. 1, get your presidential candidate on the ballot. 2, collect petitions for your candidacy. That only applies to district level. 3, submit a statement of candidacy. 4, be accepted by your presidential candidate. 5 is the primary, 6 is the allocation. We're going to run right through it. All right. It's the get your presidential candidate on the ballot. Each presidential candidate needs 5,000 petition signatures in order to get on the ballot. They need to be registered Democrats in New York State. You can start collecting your petitions December 31st, 2019, and then all the petitions have to be sent into the New York State Board of Elections between February 3rd and February 6th. So the best thing you can do if you want to become a delegate is to call up the authorized representative or email of or walk into their office of your presidential candidate that you want and say, hey, I want to help you guys out here. I want to get you on the ballot. I'm going to go walk around the city. I'm going to walk around the state, and I'm going to get signatures for you. So that's the first step. This second step only applies to district level candidates. This is what makes being a district level candidate a little bit harder, but at the same time, there's so many of them that sometimes that's where you want to focus. You yourself are going to be on the ballot. That rocks. Your name's going to be right below the presidential candidate's name. That's really cool. So you yourself need to get 500 signatures from registered Democrats in your congressional district between the same time frame. The dates are going to be the exact same for presidential candidates and for district level delegate candidates. So start December 31st, and then have to send it in the small window between February 3rd and February 6th. So the way you can do that to make it easier for you is to contact your authorized representative of your presidential candidate. They're going to want to get you on the ballot. They want to get on the ballot. You know, have a little party, sign people up. It'll be great. The second thing is contact your local Democratic club. There are indispensable resources. We know it. We're here right now because of a local Democratic club. That rocks. And they have a ton of Democrats out there that want to sign the petition to get you on the ballot. So we got a local Democratic club right there. Great. Third, pretty easy step, statement of candidacy. So you just so we have a form. It's going to be on newyorkdems.org. I'm sure if you get in contact with your authorized representatives, they'll be able to give you the form too. If you don't have access to the internet yeah, it's pretty easy. And you don't even need to use our form. All you need to do is include your name, gender, age, race, congressional district, address, phone, veteran status, ability, and Native American tribe, if applicable. As long as you include that, you can send it in a letter, you can handwrite it, you can do whatever you want. The deadline for that for district level is February 4th. For at-large, alternate, or PLEO, party leader and elected official, is April 12th. All right, the next step is be accepted by your presidential candidate. All the candidates have a right of rejection over any of the the prospective delegate candidates that they want. So if you get in there and you help out your presidential candidate and you say beforehand, like, hey, I'm trying to be a delegate, that gives them more time to vet you and get them on their list, get you on their list. There's a very short real period where the state party sends the lists of approved people who have completed all of the steps for district level and for at-large PLEO for them to send back a list of rejected candidates. So if you get there beforehand, then they will have you all ready to go, and they can set the approved lists with you on it. So for district level, they have between the 10th and the 14th of February, and at-large and PLEO and alternate, they have between the 21st and 28th of April. Next is the primary. If you want to go to Wisconsin and be a New York delegate, you're going to have to win the election. You are going to have to win the primary, or at least do okay. And the best way to do that is by knocking on doors, making phone calls, sending texts. So if you get out there, you work with the organizers of your presidential candidate that you want, then you can get yourself to win and be on the ballot. So that's going to be the big day. And now, in New York State, we have early voting. So get there early. Yes, that rocks. April 18th to April 26th, we're going to have early voting at select sites. And then we have a whole bunch of hours on the actual election day from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. to submit your votes for delegates and presidential candidates. All right, now the tough part, allocation of delegates. Okay, so it is done. Great thing in the Democratic Party. We split up everything proportionally. But you have to reach the minimum threshold of 15% in order to get delegates. So if, say, a candidate gets statewide 20% of the vote, there is a threshold of 15%. Statewide, 20% of the vote, and in the 13th congressional district, they only get 10% of the vote. They don't get any delegates for the 13th congressional district, but they still get their statewide delegates at 20%, and vice versa. So let's do an example to just sort of walk this out. So let's use the 13th congressional district. Here we have 9 delegates. We have 5 men and 4 women. Let's do candidate A, candidate B, candidate C. Let's use General Anthony for candidate A, Senator Brutus for candidate B, and Senator Cassius for candidate C. Now, General Anthony, he had a great speech right before the primary. People got real riled up, and they voted for him 55%. Senator Brutus came in strong. He was the front runner, sort of flagged towards the end, but he is an honorable man. So he got 35% of the vote. Senator Cassius, he was really exciting, and people really liked him, but only 10% of people really liked him. So unfortunately, 10% does not reach the threshold, so Senator Cassius is taken out of the running. So we need to now reallocate that 10% from Senator Cassius between General Anthony and Senator Brutus. So we take out all of the votes for Senator Cassius and reapply them to these two. So 55% out of the remaining 90% of votes times 10%, which is how many votes there were. That gives General Anthony another 6.1% and Senator Brutus another 3.9%. That's what you have. So you then convert those percentages into decimals to the thousandth point. This is all in the rules. And multiply it by the 9 delegates that we have, and then take the whole number. Don't round up or down. You just take the whole number remaining. So that's going to be 3 for Senator Brutus and 4 for General Anthony, leaving 1 remaining delegate. Where does it go? Well, you take away the remainder. So you do 5 over here from General Anthony, 4 from Senator Brutus. When I set this up, I picked random numbers. I did not expect it to be this close. But by 1/1000th of a percent, Senator Brutus or just a point, a tenth of a percent. Senator Brutus gets the final remaining delegates, and then he ends up with 4, General Anthony with 5, and Senator Cassius with 0. And because we have 9, General Anthony is going to have 4 men, 2 women, 3 men, 2 women, and Senator Brutus 2 and 2. So now, you've got the lists. Each of them have submitted their approved list of candidates they want to be their delegates. All right? So now we have to decide how those lists, ranked in order, are going to be sent to Milwaukee on our behalf from the 13th Congressional District. All right, so we start General Anthony, pretty easy. We're going to send Romeo, we're going to send Juliet, we're going to send Mercutio, Rosaline, and Tybalt. First 5, it's 3 men, 2 women, perfect. We go over to Senator Brutus. We've got Malvolio, man, perfect, 4th man from the 13th Congressional District. Then we got Captain. Captain's non-binary. That's great. We love Captain. We're happy to have Captain aboard. And Captain is going to be a member of our congressional district. So that leaves, if we then need to split it even, 50-50, between men and women, we take the non-binary candidate, Captain, put Captain off to the side for a hot sec, and then we take the 8 remaining delegates, and that must be evenly split. So we already have 4 men, and we have 2 women. Next candidate is Olivia. Olivia identifies as a woman. That's great. So that adds a 3rd delegate. The next one, Sir Toby Belch. So Toby Belch, he is a man. He identifies as a man. So we're going to move to the next woman candidate, which is Maria. Then we have 4 men, 4 women, 1 non-binary candidate, so that we have equal division of men and women. And so that's how it's done. Senator Cassius, he doesn't get anybody still. Now, let's say something crazy happens. Senator Brutus doesn't have any candidates past his original 3. He only submitted 3 candidates. All right, then we need another one, all right, to fill that position. So we are going to hold a caucus in the congressional district within 10 days of the primary. We're going to get everybody together. We're going to organize it. If you want to be a delegate and fill that position, then you have to send a statement of candidacy to the New York State Democratic Committee, and then you can run in that caucus. Now, that candidate, that delegate, is already going to be pledged to a specific presidential candidate. So this is not going to be some last-minute free-for-all to try to get that last position and wrestle away one delegate one way or another. It's already been decided. All we just need to figure out is who it is and who's going to represent that candidate in Wisconsin on our behalf. And so that's how we get that. It's great. Okay. Full participation. Excellent. So we want full participation here in the Democratic Party. We want everybody, every registered Democrat, to come out and vote in this primary. We want their voices heard. And not only do we not want to discriminate against anybody of any gender or race or age or religion or whatnot, we don't want to just not discriminate. We want to actively encourage everybody, no matter what their identity, to come out and vote with us, okay? Because that is our asset, not only here in New York, not only with the Democratic Party, but in this country and around the world. That is our greatest powerhouse, is our diversity. And so if we can turn everybody out, their candidate, the candidate that can turn out as many different coalitions as possible in the Democratic Party, is going to win here in New York and across the country, and then we can use that to win in November in 2020 and finally take Donald Trump out of office. So that's the goal. All right, so as much as we talk about it, we want to actually try to put it into action. These percentages are the share of New Yorkers who voted for Clinton and Obama in the past 2 elections. So we want our delegates that we send to Wisconsin to match this. This is our goal. And we want to hold ourselves accountable and improve on our performances in the past so that we can be as diverse as possible in the future. So now we'll get to the less exciting part, is getting to the DNC. Now, I want to make it clear that nothing you do to become a delegate costs anything. It doesn't cost anything to submit petitions or submit a statement of candidacy or any of that. But getting to Milwaukee is going to cost money, and staying there. And my boss really wanted me to stress this. And so it's going to cost the hotel room. We can work with you to find roommates if need be, but it's going to cost about $350 a night and 4 nights minimum stay because it is a long convention.
If you can.
And we also have, you can expect airlines to price gouge, so expect to maybe pay $1,000 in airlines tickets. And then you're going to want to have food and whatnot. That's probably a good idea also in Wisconsin. So yeah, we suggest you budget up to $3,000, if not more, for it. Now, we do have financial aid for delegates. We are going to be working with presidential candidates to set aside a fund for delegates to apply for financial aid to help them get to Wisconsin. Now, and this, which is great, which rocks. But my boss also wanted me to stress that these presidential candidates have a lot of things on their mind right now, and not the top of the list is fundraising for their delegates to get to Wisconsin right now. So we're going to do the best we can. We're going to try to set aside as much money as we can. And you may apply for it through the New York State Democratic Committee. We'll have a financial review committee, and then they'll assess you on number of assess the amount of funds that should go out based on the number of applicants, the needs of each applicant, and the amount raised in total from all these candidates. And the presidential candidates, the money from them is not designated for their specific candidate. It will be going to the entire pool. All right, so let's just run through the timeline real quick. To get to the floor one more time, district level delegates, you could start getting petitions signed December 31st, submit it between February 3rd and 6th, submit your statement of candidacy to the New York State Democratic Committee on the 4th. The deadline for the presidential candidates to submit to us their lists is going to be the 14th. The primaries on the 28th, and then the conventions the 13th to the 16th. For at-large, alternate, and PLEO delegates, you should submit your statement of candidacy on April 12th. On April 28th is the deadline for the presidential candidates to submit their approved lists to the New York State Democratic Committee. That's also April 28th is a presidential primary. May 12th is when we're going to officially certify all of the at-large, alternate, and PLEO delegates. Because it's not the voters who are voting on them directly on the form, but little round sideways through the presidential candidates, the Democratic Committee in their meeting, their convention, on May 12th will be voting for, will be certifying the results. And then we have the Democratic National Convention, of course, at the end. Great, so here's the current list. I think this actually might be, I put this up about 2 days ago, and I think we got another one in the past 2 days. But this is the contacts for the presidential candidates at the moment. This will be updated all the time at nydems.org. So go there, contact the point of contact for each of the representatives here, each of the candidates here, so you could get started now in supporting your candidates. And I think that's just about it. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Yes, you will be receiving this information. Yes. I also have a handout that will be going, a pamphlet that will be sent out from Brett and Eleanor's Legacy. But if you don't have email, you can come to me, and I've got a few copies as well that I can hand to you. And I think that's it from me. We can do some Q&A for sure. Great. Hi.
Wait.
Sorry.
So the way, let me return. The way we'll do Q&A is that there are microphones on the floor here. So if you would come down to the microphone on either side, and we'll work that way. And I think, Chung, if you find yourself, like you want to answer a question, the podium mics are also live, and so you can position yourself here. And again, we will send this information out, but as most importantly, Douglas at the very end, if you noted, he said this list for contacts for the candidates is maintained and updated at nydems.org. I'll send that out again, but nydems.org is where you'll find this information live online. But it's a lot of content. A lot of it is learned by doing. So Q&A, shall we? And we'll just sort of go right and left. And again, if you want to keep it concise so we can get through the questions. We'll go your left to Nye. And say your name so we get to know you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nye Whitaker. I've actually been a delegate before, and I want to say, Doug, that was an amazing presentation. My question is regarding financial aid. We live in a community where that's going to be important to be able to give people access to participate is financing the trip. Do you know when the announcement would come in terms of who receives the aid? Because if the convention is, our local convention is in May and the actual Wisconsin convention is in July, that's a very tight time frame, and by then it may be very expensive to book your reservations. So I just didn't know if there was a consideration as to when you would get notice of receiving a financial aid supplement to be able to make your plans.
Great. Yes, yeah. The deadline to submit the application is 45 days before, I thought I wrote this. I didn't, I'm so sorry. It's 45 days before, here we go, before the DNC convention. And then,
Is this helpful, this one?
That's not it. I didn't put it up, I forgot. But 30 days before is when we're going to officially let everyone know. That's our deadline to let everyone know who received the financial aid.
Thank you.
So, by show of hands, I saw the number of people who obviously want to be delegate, first-time delegate, but how many of you are interested in running for office? Amazing. Give yourself a round of applause. And so if you're sitting here wondering, like, how do I run for office? Here it is. You have a plan now, your first time to gather petition signatures, first time making a phone call to ask friends and families to support you and write a check. So I would advise not to just wait for the DNC and the state party, to do your own fundraising through letters, through calls, through bake sales, or however.
House party.
Yeah, and it's exciting, right? So you're really running, and you're going to be knocking on doors, and you're going to be calling and getting other people excited for you. So if you want to run for office, this is your first opportunity. And we're here to support you, and so there'll be other trainings as well, but it's really exciting. I'm pleased to see so many of you, and good luck.
All right. We'll go to the left side.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephanie Zinnerman, and I have a question about petitioning. So I am currently a member of the county committee, and so when I look at petitioning for my presidential candidate, also for the role of first-time delegate, will I also have to have a third petition for the county committee position as well, or are they somehow combined?
Oh, are they different? Is that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Different
yes.
dates.
Yes. Oh, yes. They are all, the dates are the same, yes,
Right,
at least for presidential and for the delegates. I'm not entirely sure what the state committee.
Yeah, look, there's been some discussion we've heard in the last couple of days where the governor has wanted to move the dates and try to consolidate to one date and probably earlier in February. The problem with that is that the plan submitted by the State Democratic Party has already been approved by the DNC, which is why we got so many more delegates, because it was a bonus. And we got a bonus to supplement the base numbers of delegates for New York. So we would lose those numbers. In fact, we would move the date to earlier than April 28th. So it's a big discussion, I think, internally. I don't think I have an update unless you have an update. No. So hopefully the leaders will get together. But as of now, we have a presidential primary, April 28th in New York.
Yes.
For the delegates as well as the presidential, and then another time for your county committee and the local races.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, this might be piggybacking on the county committee issue or question. What part does, Lori Honor from Staten Island, what part does county committee play, if any, in the delegate selection process, and how connected should we be to our local county committees?
Mm-hmm. Do you want to do it?
I think that in order to run a rigorous campaign, every bit of support helps, particularly clubs, county committee, if you're no members of the state committee, and certainly you need to be known to the presidential choice, the campaign locally for them, because You don't want to just be a piece of paper that gets to arrive at their desk. You want to, go and show that you're going to be a fantastic volunteer for the presidential candidate, and you'll be, knocking on doors and explaining to New Yorkers why they're the best choice. So in doing that, you'll make connections.
Hi, my name is Gloria Winograd. While I hate to think about money, I'm curious, I'm a little confused. If you're fundraising, you need to fundraise and petition, gather signatures for your candidate. But you also need to get money for yourself. And if you do not get selected, and you have collected this money, I'm hoping it just gets going into the pool, but I wondered about that.
I think, so if I understand correctly, so the question is about fundraising in order to
Get there.
to get to Milwaukee,
Yeah.
which is the goal. Did you think your life's goal would be getting to Milwaukee?
Right.
But here, so I think that it's two-part process. The first is the focusing on the petitioning to,
Right.
or becoming a delegate. But to Nai's first question, the fundraising hinges on the timing a little bit for getting to Milwaukee. I didn't answer
clarify
that
that.
accurately.
Well, like if I got somebody, for instance, if I got an aunt or an uncle to write me a big check, and I did not get selected, then,
You can still go to Wisconsin. So here's how you do it.
Yeah.
Believe me, I know some of you have have visited me when I was executive director and hounded me for passes to the many events that will take place at the convention. So at the convention, there will be breakfasts and receptions and all kinds of different meetings. And so you could still use your money, your aunt and uncle's money, to get to Wisconsin, but not as a delegate. You're going to have to, find someone to share a room with, but you still could do it and should do it. And there are a lot of things going on within the convention hall that you can come as a guest. If you're lucky to get a hall pass to get in, that's even more reason to go.
but then would there be also an opportunity to give what we have to somebody who did get selected?
I think that's a great idea. I think that Douglas will be here to maybe,
Okay, thank you.
develop that. I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
And if it doesn't come up, in the questions yet this time around, could we review one more time? There's running for district delegate, but the other delegate options, that slide that you do have
Yes.
for them.
The Pleos and
Yeah.
at large.
Just all of them?
Yeah, would that be
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Ones that would be available to sort of just the average.
Yes.
Person.
Just like the numbers?
Yes,
Sorry.
like
Okay, yeah.
so if it's not, to Chung's point, if you don't participate as a district level delegate, there are other delegate
Yes.
options.
That's right.
Right, but there would be a way to donate what we have.
Yeah, I think we do. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There we go.
right.
Hi, sorry. Hi, I'm Jessica. When you had the breakdown, one of the words was youth, and I was wondering if you could define what that means.
Yeah.
Because to me, youth is under 18. For some people in this room, I am youth. So,
Well, if you ask the Democratic Party, the DNC, they will say it's 35 and under. So, yeah, youth.
And again, if you are a person from the Native tribe, you're almost an automatic delegate, because based on the recruitment goals and goals that we want to reach to really be inclusive, we want to be able to have, to meet all those goals. And sometimes it's really hard to have a Native American anywhere in the city or the state run as a delegate. So I think if you are Native, we deem you automatic for a delegate position.
So for that side.
I just wanted to clarify the fundraising piece. Should we open up like a candidate pack as opposed to our personal accounts? Because when you're fundraising, it's to be elected into a position. And if you don't, like you just brought up other things we could do with the money, but just for accountability. And, when people really want to support you, I just want to make sure everything is, you know, everyone, there's trust, there's accountability, transparency.
Actually, there's a part of, in the pamphlet, the whole, I guess, 70 pages or 78 pages, you do have to file with the City Campaign Finance Board. So if you're going to do any type of fundraising and not just support yourself to be a member delegate process and run your own campaign, if you are having fundraisers, you have to file with the City Campaign Finance Board and set up a committee.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sharon Harkey from Brooklyn. And I was wondering if you could clarify, compare and contrast the different benefits or not of running for district level or becoming a candidate's delegate.
No, there's no. A district level is the same as you're running. You can only be a district level if you run.
Okay,
At large is basically through appointments.
okay.
Okay, so that's the difference. So if you want to be, and you have to run as a district level.
Is there any, well, first of all, can you run, you can't run as both? Is one, no, okay. And is there any benefit to doing one or the other? I mean, is one worth more than, I don't know how to phrase it, but is it, yeah.
I really would encourage everyone to run and let the at-large position be your fallback. I think Plan A should always be run, you can, district level, and then at-large will be your backup.
Thank you.
And again, at-larges are also very competitive. I want to share this because, Gail, we wanted to share the whole idea everyone heard after 2016, the DNC rules about superdelegates. And I want to share this so that everyone understands what the dilemma was. Back in 20 years ago, everyone ran for delegates. That meant if Gail Brewer was the borough president or my city council member, she would run in my district. So would my Congress member. So would the mayor. Everybody ran. And guess what? I would never be a delegate because they have this name ID and they will win the nomination. They would get the votes. They could support themselves through a campaign. And so ordinary New Yorkers wouldn't be a delegate. So what the DNC did was then to take these set of individuals, of elected officials, and made them superdelegates, a category, then gave people, ordinary New Yorkers, average New Yorkers, an opportunity to run. But because of what happened in 2016 and people felt the superdelegates were somehow, I don't know, I didn't believe that they were trying to take anything away from the delegates themselves. So the rules have changed. So you might find that your local congressman decides that they're going to run for district level. And that's the competition you'll face in your various congressional districts now. Just want to highlight that in case everyone thinks like, what's happening? And saying the superdelegates just aren't making anything fair. I think what they've decided at the DNC to make sure all the various factions were satisfied with the rules, I think they complicated something that was non-existent. So.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Idell Howitt, and my question is, if I support a candidate, petition for that candidate, collect money for that candidate, and then the candidate drops out, where does that leave me?
Great. Yes, so there is, I believe the date is March 3rd, is the last day that candidates can drop out and then be pulled from the ballot. If they drop out after March 3rd and before the primary, the Board of Elections has already started printing out ballots, so your name and their name is going to be on the ballot still. So then either continue to campaign for that candidate or shift to another one, but your name is going to be on the ballot still with that candidate. if it's after March 3rd.
And then, so I have a question. Could you review for me, Chung, you had mentioned at-large delegate is an appointed office or appointed position. Could you just talk through what that entails, how that comes to be?
Yeah, sure. So it's anybody can apply to be at large. And so if you aren't chosen by your presidential candidate also for district level position, you can also try to apply to be an at-large delegate because that all happens after the district level happens. But it's the same process. So you submit your statement of candidacy to the New York State Democratic Committee, and then we will submit those lists of names to each candidate. But it's up to them. They get to decide who they want to be their district level, their at-large delegate candidates. So, and there's a lot of very important people here in New York, and so they'll probably give preferential treatment to the people who they know and like and have worked with before here in New York, and so that's why it's more difficult to become a delegate candidate for at-large.
And also, again, the way that the process works is that everybody runs in their congressional district, and then the determination based on whether you're male, female, and I've had some friends who run and they were the highest vote-getting female, but the slot that was needed was a male. So they got skipped, even though you won and you got the highest vote, the slot was going to a male, so they then have to go to the highest voting male to fill that slot. These are the rules. You have to understand all these rules before you get into this, and I'm happy to answer more specifically. But that's how it is determined. Now, for at-large members, the selection is critical because you saw that this plan that had to be approved by the National Democratic Committee calls for specific goals for Asian Americans, for Latinas, or Native Americans, again, people with disability, youth, veterans. So there's a whole list of goals that the state party wants to be inclusive. So those are the at-large members. So if we find ourselves that we don't have, for example, a single Asian that won at the district level, then there's supposed to be 24, right? That's the number? Something like that. So those at-large members have to include some Asian members in order to fulfill the goals that the state party have conducted themselves. Does everyone understand that? So those are all very internal process. Run, win, that's the first preference. And if not, then make yourself known to the state party in filing to wanting to be at large.
And Amanda.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Farias. I just have a quick thought / question around party leadership. So I myself am a state committee member, and I'm planning on being a delegate in some fashion. But in terms of more localized party leaders, like per borough here in the city, do they have any impact or say on who they view within their roster, like who's applied, who's won, who are the highest vote getters, so on and so forth? And do they have any way of swaying who actually gets put forward? If that can be answered.
So you're saying, you're a state committee member and you're wondering.
I'm just thinking in general, sorry, I'm like, this is like a weird height for me. I'm 5'4", and I'm trying to figure it out with the step. It's like one leg on, one leg off. So I'm thinking if a bunch of folks in the community that maybe are not necessarily in favor of their local county chair, right, go to petition, get on the ballot, get the most votes amongst the other 30 people that maybe applied in that area as well, and everyone got on. In that list of said 30 to 40 people that have now won and could be district level delegates or could be put forward, are there any preventative measures where or is there any way that localized county leadership can actually have a say in who gets put forward or not, or is it only New York State Democratic Democratic leadership?
I will say that, so to answer the first part of the question, if you run as a district level delegate and you got the most votes, and there is a slot that's available to female highest vote getter, there's no way that anyone can take that from you. Okay? That's the Board of Election validating that. So if they certify your votes, then they get to be at district level. Like, no one can come in and say, well, we don't want her or something. That doesn't happen at district level. Now, I'm saying, again, at the at-larges, there's more political decisions that get made, and so that may, because again, they're just trying to fill a goal of what we're trying to do, the intent of making New York delegation the most diverse, most inclusive.
Okay, thank you.
And then I have a question. So Chung, you mentioned the highest vote getter, male and female, and Douglas, you had the slide about reapportioning the candidates, or the delegate district level delegates. So how do we start? How do they begin apportioning by gender, at least? How do those tiers line up?
In my previous, it's been a coin toss.
So what's that mean?
It means head or for male. So then if it's male first, then female. Or
who tosses the coin?
Female first, then
who tosses the coin?
Jay Jacobs.
Yeah,
so the chair of the party does a coin toss?
Yeah, so we also, the way we decided here is we just started, the first odd number, we just decided to do a female. It was the first one with the majority, and then the next odd number, we just had male with the majority, and then still ended with 92, 92. So that's for particularly how we decided these district level breakdowns. But when it comes to the even number ones for first one, that is going to be decided.
And we have Eleanor Roosevelt to thank for women and men having parity for the delegation.
All right, I have one more question, which is the slide about when all of this begins. If you could review that for when you contact state committee and file forms.
Yes. So the first step is going to be for you guys. The first step is going to be to start signing petitions, and that all starts December 31st. And the first day you could submit your statement of candidacy is January 2nd. I mean, you can send it to us beforehand. We'll hold it on. We're not going to shred it or anything. But that is the official day that we say we are going to start accepting statements of candidacy. And then the boards of elections are going to accept the petitions between February 3rd and February 6th.
And how many people are already familiar with petitioning just in general? You've carried one. All right, so this feels familiar to you on that front? Right. How many people have picked a candidate, asks our borough president. All right. It's about 50-50 at least. Right.
And again, just a cautionary recommendation. You should hand deliver your statement of candidacy to the state Democratic office and not rely on mail or fax or email. Just make sure you hand it to someone and get a receipt if possible, because we've known in the past, we've dealt with people who claim to have sent to us, there's no copies, and if there's no hard copy at the state party within the deadline, unfortunately, you're not a valid candidate. So please make sure.
So did everyone hear that loud and clear? Yeah, absolutely. Chung, former executive director of the state committee, recommends that you physically go to the state committee with your statement of candidacy for being a district-wide delegate in order to ensure that you see it is physically received by the state committee. And failing that, the state committee's offices, Douglas, are located on Lexington Avenue. Douglas will get to that slide.
420 Lexington Avenue.
420 Lexington Avenue. If you aren't, I appreciate Move Forward Staten Island might be rolling their eyes at us, encouraging them to go in person. Chung recommends that if you can't go in person, that you at least send it with a return receipt or some way to confirm that it was received by the state committee, which is never as well staffed as they want it to be. It's a small but mighty team doing the best they can.
But Marie Parker is there.
Marie Parker, how many people have yet encountered the fabulous Marie Parker, office manager for the New York State Democratic Committee? She will make sure that all questions are answered. She helped pull today together. So 420 Lexington Ave is where you want to go to between starting December.
January 2nd.
January 2nd.
Yeah.
And then I, of course, have more questions. So the slide about signatories that you had up there of presidential candidates must collect 5,000 petition signatures, residents of the state, registered Democrats. And then if you could just remind me, running for district-wide, district-level delegate. 500 signatures.
But I would get still a cushion. One who's done petitioning knows you need just a little bit of cushion, particularly there are other candidates who are also running. We'll make sure.
And you would advise that some people here are representing different congressional districts, some from Westchester and some from in the city. In your experience, Chung, is it best to just connect with a presidential delegate representative that Douglas provided us the information for in order to sort of execute the finding those registered Dems in your congressional district? What's the best way of sort of launching that?
Yeah, I think that all campaigns right now are starting to gather their field operation here in New York. We'll have more names, I think, in the next couple of weeks, specific names attached to the campaign. But that's what you should do, is to contact your campaign, your preferential choice candidate's office, and they will then put you together with their volunteer coordinator or their field director and get you started on helping to collect those 5,000 signatures. Any candidate would want those signatures to reflect statewide support. So great if you're from Westchester, Rockland, or anywhere else, because the candidate would love your help in those other counties. I think they know that they'll be okay with the counties within the 5 boroughs.
I'm sorry, I have a question. My name is Nina Saxon, for people that don't know me. A quick question. In terms of if you want to become a delegate, is it okay? Because right now we have elections that are going to be happening next year with state senate, state assembly, and the presidential. If you are part of that group, can you be listed under them as a candidate for?
So it's your district. If you are running to be a district level delegate and you are collecting petition signatures
already for my state senator,
different timelines.
And if we are, it's a different timeline, so we cannot.
Well, so it's 2 different elections.
Okay.
The election for presidential candidates and their delegates will take place right now in April.
Okay.
And it will list, so it will be whoever the candidate is and then all the folks who are running to be in that congressional district that have qualified to get on the ballot.
Okay.
So if you qualify, you got your petitions in, then they will list you on the ballot underneath your presidential candidate.
And so
separate from state assembly and state senate, which currently
is in June.
Is currently scheduled for June, as Douglas and Chung noted. There's some conversation about changing that, but right now that's being held in June.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Betsy Feist.
Step even closer. So sorry. Sorry,
Oh,
I was
I'm
just shouting away. Sorry, Betsy, we'll return to you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I have to do something with the microphone.
Okay, so hi, my name is Maria Ordonez, and I'm from West Harlem, exactly this community here where we're at right now. I have 2 questions. So first, I wanted to clarify about petitions. So for district level delegates, people running for district level delegates, is that a separate petition from the presidential petition, or can it just be the same one?
It depends on your presidential candidate. There's some in the past have put petitions together and printed their own slate of delegates, and some that have done it individually. So that just depends on the candidate.
Okay. And, sorry? Oh, she's just telling me it depends on the district leaders. Oh, wait, how does that work? Can you, okay. Oh, well, okay. And another question. So anybody can run to be a district level delegate. So you can have 30 people running under the same one candidate, let's say candidate A.
If those 30 qualify to be a registered Democrat, meeting the age of 18, and also collecting valid 500 signatures.
Okay.
From that congressional district.
So what happens if you have a tie? Who decides on that tie?
Actually, the chart that you see, the male, female, it would be a tie for both female, then we've never had that situation. We've had some close where male and female were together by one vote difference. And again, because of the coin toss, it just depends. If the congressional district before you ends with a male, the next slot goes to a female, right? So that's how it goes. And then if you're the top voter and you're a male, that slot doesn't go to you. It goes to a female top voter.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
You go out this door.
Hi, I'm still Betsy Feist, and I adjusted the mic, so we're all set. This is really more of clarification because I did run for delegate a few cycles back, and at that time, you couldn't have the presidential candidate on the same petition as the delegates because the presidential candidate had to submit to Albany, and the delegates had to submit here, and I don't know if that's the same. And the other thing was that all the candidates for delegate in the district could be on the same petition, so that, in fact, the individual didn't have to collect 500 signatures for herself. It had to be, on that petition, so that, if you had 10 people on the petition,
Collect together.
You could collect together, making the job a little easier. So I wanted to make sure if that is still the case.
Again, a good point about district leaders. So again, the best thing to do is to be involved within your local club, your local district leaders, in your congressional district, because they're the ones who will run the operation.
Excuse me, but being a member of a club and have a former president of a club, in the club I belong to, they did not endorse for a presidential candidate. It was called Captain's Choice. So each member of the club could connect with a campaign. And that's how it happened then, and how I happened to so the important thing then was to connect with somebody locally that's higher up in the campaign, somebody below the person listed on your chart, but was organizing on a very local basis.
And I don't know if Douglas, or if we don't know the exact answer to that question of if you can run delegate petitions together on one petition, we can try to find out that answer and share that information if that's how it will run this time. Again, I don't have the answer, but we'll find out and follow up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, to the left.
Hi, Latrice Curry. I lost my voice in the parade yesterday, so sorry.
Well, all right. I think it was time well spent.
But I was wondering, is this presentation specific for the 5 boroughs? Because I'm from a small town on Long Island. So is my process any different? Or where am I taking my ballots? Am I coming to Lexington, or am I taking it somewhere on Long Island?
Yes, so the ballots are going to be, your petitions are going to be sent to your Board of Elections. So on Long Island, there's a list that we'll have on our website, and then also in the pamphlet that is going to be sent out, and I also have copies of. So if you're running in New York City, then your petitions should be sent to the New York City Board of Elections. If you're running on Long Island, either the Nassau or Suffolk County or statewide, depending on where your congressional district snakes into. If it's between two, then it'll be sent to the State Board of Elections. But there's a whole list of where your congressional district is, and then where you should send your.
And that will be in the information that you email to us?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Which is different than the statement of candidacy.
Yes,
right?
yeah. Also, the statement of candidacy, thank you, is all sent to us at the New York State Democratic Committee. And you can just mail it to us. You could probably email us a PDF or fax it to us if you'd like. And then if you give us a call, we'll let you know if we got it. Great, thank you.
And yes.
Hi. This is more of a comment, not so much of a question. My name is Mindy Roja Rayburn. Last time around, I was a delegate, and my district was District 12. And for when we did our petitioning, we did have all the delegates that were on there. And because District 12 is all wonky, covering 3 boroughs, we had to make sure, and I think this is just really advice for everybody, is that when you do petition, you got to make sure it's in your district. And you should always, it says 500 signatures. The way we've done it, you try to go for 3 times that, because you're going to have bad signatures. You're going to have signatures of people outside of the district. So you just got to make sure within the district, and way more than enough. And that was all. I just wanted to make sure that it has to be in your district.
Thank
for
you.
the petition.
I mean, again, I started by saying that if you want to run for office in the future, this is your best chance of getting it right at the start by running as a delegate. So your opportunity to get really good signatures from your neighbors in the district and get few more than just 500, 3 times is a good goal. So again, making sure that you can get a list of registered Democrats from your Board of Elections, local Board of Election office. Usually they give you a CD. So that you can contact, people, sometimes I think they have phone numbers. I'm not sure how, it may cost you a little bit for additional information, but that's all public information.
And I think, are we ready to go? Oh, yes, we are.
Yeah, Randy's here.
Yeah, we are. All right, so we're going to take, well, a round of applause. So I thank Chung and I thank Douglas. They're both a resource, and they'll both stay as long as we need them to today. And clearly, this is just step 1 in a very long process of getting to Milwaukee. And as Douglas reminded us, to electing a Democrat to the White House November 2020. There's a woman here, a New Yorker. And because a lot of this is learned by doing, we thought we would ask a teacher to come and give us a little bit of a rundown of the experience of being a delegate, why delegates matter, why it matters that you run, and especially as Chung said, this is a great practice, great opportunity for running for office beyond running for delegate. So please welcome, you might know her, Randy Weingarten.
And I'm sure you've announced this, but before I say anything, there are a couple of people from Emily's list who had this idea, and I want them to stand. Yes.
Standing because she was one of them.
But this is what's so important about, look at this room. Look how many people are here. This is what's so important about Eleanor's legacy, Emily's list, many of the other groups that have supported this work. It is about, the nitty-gritty of, oh my God. It is about the nitty-gritty of politics. And if you don't actually know the nitty-gritty, particularly given what has been New York State election law, you're going to be out of it. And part of why Eleanor's legacy started in the first place was to actually get more women to run, more women to be aware. And we all know, and trust me, I've been in Washington now for a long enough period of time to know, the more women we can get into positions of power in Washington, the better off the United States of America will be. And so I have a bunch of things that I was going to say, but I'm going to just put this down for a second. Bridget promised me that she would hold my, so I'm going to just do this and thank you. And just say a couple of things. Number one, how many of you in this room are in unions? Now, I'm saying that on purpose because if you happen to be in one of the unions that the AFT is affiliated with, meaning UUP, PSC, UFT, NYSID, or PEF, there's a completely different endorsement process now than there's been, I would say, in the last 20 or 30 years. And it is about engagement. It is as much about engagement as it is about sharing values with candidates for the 2020 nomination and about who's electable. Now, we need to do both of those things. That has normally been what our questions, as well as obviously where our members are. But the issue now is, how do we make sure that people don't sit on the sidelines? You're here on a Sunday. You're not sitting on the sidelines. But how do we actually get people? There were 80 million people who were registered to vote in 2016 that didn't vote. The question becomes, how do we get them to vote? And I have a sense that if more of them voted, there would probably be a different president right now. But my point is, without making, and I just, as I was stuck on the George Washington Bridge after I visited my father upstate today, I was reading through the papers this afternoon, or it was like from morning to afternoon by the time I got off the bridge. But the chair of Trump's campaign says last night at a GOP convention, by the way, the GOP is thinking about how it is eliminating primary. As the Democrats are doing more engagement, the GOP is eliminating some primaries in Nevada and South Carolina. That also came out yesterday. But my point is, what did the chair of this campaign say as he was trying to rally the troops for Trump? He was proud of the fact that the Trump family may be a dynasty for years and years and years. And frankly, you know, we used to, like today, I even tweeted out all the memes about Sharpiegate. Except it's pretty serious. And so when Trump says that he may actually be president for life and not give the job up, you actually have to believe that he's serious, that it is not a joke, that he would rather be an autocrat than a president. So the reason I say this, instead of kind of going through all of it, I mean, someone who says that immigrants are an invading force, someone who normalizes racism, I mean, we can go through all of it. And in this room, we have the activists. But how do we get enough people who feel like the system is rigged, it's rigged against them? One person, one vote doesn't really mean one person, one vote. And you know, in places that are gerrymandered, it probably doesn't. Except we have to make it mean that. In places of voter suppression, we have to turn that around. But as my partner often says, she's a rabbi, so I can quote her, that none of us can do everything, but all of us can do something. None of us can do everything, but all of us can do something. And so, what we thought in our union was, look, any one of the Democrats, even the people who have not been as pro-public education as they ought to, would be hands down so much better than Donald Trump. But if people don't feel empowered, they're not going to go vote. If people don't see themselves in the candidate, if they don't see themselves in what's going on, they're not going to go vote. And that is as important as anything else. Why do I start with that about this process? Because the thing that the Democratic Party has actually done right this year, and you know, I hope we don't get to a second or third ballot in Milwaukee. But if we do, any of you who are delegates, you're going to have the time of your life. But the thing we've done right, and now I'm speaking as one of the members of the Rules and Bylaws Committee as opposed to the AFT president. Here. Rules and Bylaws Committee. Is that it wasn't just our union who started thinking about that. It's everyone who's in the leadership of the Democratic Party that's saying, how do we make this more about engagement? How do we bring more people in? How do we do something where people feel really empowered? And that's why a lot of the groups are really working with the Democratic Party. We're working to try to make the caucuses more open. We had a little bump in the road because of all the cyber issues for Nevada and for Iowa. We're working with states to make their processes more open, to open up registration, to have same-day registration, to make sure people can vote. But this piece of running for delegate, and I heard Chung say this may be one of the only times that people from communities all over this state can be running. Yes, you're running maybe for someone else, for Warren or Biden or Beto or, should I say all the Bs, or Bullock or de Blasio or Bennett. I did say Warren. Oh, did I forget Bernie? Or Bernie, or Amy, or, you know, or Kamala, or Buttigieg. I saw all of them yesterday in New Hampshire, and it was a pretty remarkable day. But my point is, you have the opportunity, given the way the primary process is structured in New York State, you have the opportunity to run yourself as well as run as a delegate for someone. And that's a pretty amazing process. I was working for the UFT when I ran in 1992 as a Bill Clinton delegate. But it was really different to be knocking on doors of people in my neighborhood every Saturday, running for myself as well as for Clinton. It's a really different kind of process, and that anyone who hasn't done it, it's pretty empowering. It's scary, but it's pretty empowering. And us as an AFT union this year has said we wanted to get people to really see candidates, not just tell us their values, but be engaged with candidates. So we've had a whole bunch of these town halls, not for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but for an hour, where candidates have had to subject themselves to questions of my members. And if you think my members are tough in lots of different places, think about how they are talking to Elizabeth Warren or Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. Pete Buttigieg is coming, but Steve Bullock is coming, but several of the others. Beto, Tim Ryan. Somebody actually said to Tim Ryan at one of these town halls, by the way, we're not all teachers. We are bus drivers and paraprofessionals, and you should be talking about those folks as well. And he has said since then, you know, I was schooled by a New York State teacher who told me all of these things. But that's part of our engagement process. But also as part of our engagement process is we want people to slate for delegates regardless of who you are slating for. So instead of being outside of the union doing it, we want you to be inside the union being able to slate for someone and being able to then get some support from our union. That's why I asked the question at the beginning, because I want everybody else who's in a union to say, well, Randy said this, you should be doing this too. Because we want people to be engaged and be involved and feel like the government can actually work to solve problems. And if you're involved from the beginning, from slating, whoever becomes the nominee, you're going to be talking to people. You're going to be listening to people. You're going to be actually convincing people when you're convincing them to vote for you that the government can actually work to solve the people's problems, to actually have justice for all, to actually deal with mass incarceration, to actually deal with wage theft, to actually deal with the issues of a living wage or the right to join a union, or actually having health care where you're not one illness away from bankruptcy, or crushing student debt, or a democracy that works for all instead of having the kind of judges we're having right now, or a freedom of the press, or on and on and on. But it starts with actually becoming a delegate and doing that kind of work. It actually starts with I don't have to convince any of you in this room that it starts with activism. But when you become a delegate, or even try to become a delegate, that process of empowerment, that process of talking to your neighbors, that process of talking with our communities, with creating that one-on-one, that is one of the most empowering processes I know. I spend almost every Saturday in the last 20 years knocking on doors during election periods and non-election periods. During the whole process in which the right wing was trying to take unions out because of the Janus case, on the phone, talking to people, I find that the notion of talking to neighbors, of looking people eye to eye, of actually being all in it together, that is what, in de Tocqueville's words, made America good. America, in his words, was great because America was good. Our job is to get America back to being good. It's not always good. 1619 is as important as 1776. But the arc needs to go back to being good. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thanks for having me. For sure we did this.
Thank you.
So I get to follow Randy Weingarten. And it's always a pleasure to do so because she fires me up and reminds me why we all do this work we do and why we all take the time on a Sunday to come together for this. I'm going to ask Douglas, if he's still around, I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you if you could just give us, I guess, a sort of top 3 steps you'd recommend the folks that are here this afternoon that they take leaving here. I just put it on that slide, but if there's a better one, you can choose it. What they should leave here prepared to do over the next couple weeks and months.
Great. All right, top 3 steps.
What do you think?
Step number 1, contact your authorized representative of your presidential candidate. That's huge. That's the big one. You got to do that if you want to become a delegate. You can't do anything if you haven't done that. You got to get on their good side, and you got to help them out. Step 2 is find your local Democratic clubs. Also contact them. Sign up for the mailing list. Show up to events like this, which rock, and sign petitions. Those are great. Yeah, get in touch with your local Democratic club. And then go to nydems.org and sign up for our mailing list, because we'll be able to help you out there as well. And I think that's the other thing. We'll give you all the info you need through that. I think those are those.
Yeah, I think those are 3 good ones. Okay. I think those are 3 excellent ones, because I think also, to Randy's point and to Chung, what she really emphasized is that running as a delegate is perhaps you knocking a door, but if we can do it as a team, for those fortunate enough to be a member of the UFT or AFT or any of the other 20 unions, over 20 unions represented here today, you have good partners who are going to work with you. For those who aren't, who don't find themselves with that opportunity, there are the Democratic clubs, and then there are the women's organizations that are here today that are just as keenly interested in growing women's political power all over the 5 boroughs and beyond. And so hook up with one of them, and together can navigate the process of getting to Milwaukee. And it is just the beginning. Like I started off by saying, this is just the first time Douglas answered my plea to come and spend a Sunday with us. I think the plan was just finalized maybe 3 weeks ago or so, the New York State delegate selection plan that he reviewed today, more or less.
It's still sort of in the process.
It's still even being fine-tuned.
Yeah.
And as we discussed earlier, maybe even some of these dates will change. So we want to be sure that you are learning as much as we are learning as we go, and that the additional forums that Douglas will organize, I know, will probably tackle a different aspect or go a little bit more in depth, responding to the questions that we've received today. If there are more questions, I bet we're happy to stay. I know we'll be happy to stay as long as we have them all for you. And if there aren't any, then Douglas, you don't need to change a thing about the presentation. Well done. But it looks like there is one over here, so I'm just going to ask you to step forward to the microphone again. That's still hot and live down there. Go away. Ask away.
I'm from Richmond County and
Staten Island.
Staten Island. And there are a number of problems. One is that our county leader would somehow tell people that if you insist on running on a primary, then you'll never work again, things like this. So a couple of months ago, he decided he's not going to run because the surrogate race went with what the grassroots group did. And to convince our assemblyman to run, he said, hey, I'm going to lose my job if I don't win. And, you know, what am I going to do? I won't have a job. And we're like, listen, remember Corzine? He had a lot of money, but he didn't have the votes. What you have to do is go to the South Shore of Staten Island. Statewide and in the county, candidates are constantly told, don't go to the South Shore, it's all Republican. It's not all Republican. And Tish James, when she came in, I said, do me a favor, don't listen to the electeds who said don't go there. And she went in the primary, and when she got there, she was all sweaty, she had to drive herself. She stood up and said, look, I thought I was going to end up in the water or New Jersey, but here I am. If I win, I'm coming back. And let me tell you, I know it's a civic, and I know some of you are not Republicans, but you live with one, you know one, you're the mother, the wife, the daughter of, and here's what I have to say. And she told her story, and at the end she said, I was told don't come down here, but I came anyway. She cleaned up. I was also a VISTA volunteer at age 18 in West Virginia, and everybody thinks it's a red state. They had 2 U.S. senators that were Democrats, a Democratic governor, for a very long time. JFK knew that. He went there. The rest of the people down the pipeline decided, oh, it's a red state because they voted red, because the Republicans went into the state and put up signs, we'll drive you to the polls, we'll do, and the Democrats ignored them because they don't have a lot of electoral votes. So I think what we have to do is really think door to door, but in the states where you don't ordinarily go unless we can get rid of the Electoral College, and never disconnect from the Democrats that don't vote, because sometimes they don't vote because we get ignored. And that has to go with geographics, not only out of New York, but in New York. Just like Republicans probably figure it's not worth it. We're always going to get the electoral votes.
True.
So to me, when I've knocked on doors, and I've been doing this since 18, I'm telling you, you have to go how would you like to be the Democrat that's in West Virginia and people don't come? How would you like to be the person who's in Staten Island on the South Shore, and that's the first time that they really started seeing citywide people coming in to notice them? And we got John Liu down there. He still comes even though he's not running for something right now.
That, Sean?
He came when he was becoming a pilot, you know? And I mean, that's the thing, is that he listened to the people. And you can't be ethno or racial,
Right. So
centric
I'm gonna
or female centric, because a lot of people will look at this and say, "Oh, it's all for women. They're trying to take over."
So I'm gonna draw 2 lessons from Cindy from Staten Island.
One more thing, I just want to say, I have to tell you, because you do have extra time, right? 2008, I was for Hillary. Obama got endorsed by Jay Rockefeller in February. He thought it was a cleanup situation. He didn't go back. I went down there to the people I knew from Vista, and we got Hillary there for Mother's Day, because the woman that invented Mother's Day 100 years earlier, they were honoring her in a venue that was for 200 people. They had to shut down the highways. She showed up 2 days before the primary, even though all the big donors were like, no, she's got to go to Pennsylvania. I said, let her go there. Put Bill
so I'm gonna
and Chelsea.
reclaim my time.
She won.
Reclaiming my
6:30.
time, Cindy.
Okay.
So
she got 60-something%.
2 lessons I'm gonna draw from Cindy. Activism matters. Talking to people matters, except, however, we're talking about running to be a delegate to the DNC, and so please, for the next few weeks and months following Douglas's next 3 steps, be sure you are talking to Democrats, because you need Democratic signatures for your presidential candidate and for your district level petitions, and for those who are collecting later on for state legislature as well. We're going to the right.
Marjorie Horn, New York City.
Member of?
Eleanor's Legacy.
I meant, Actors.
Actors Equity Association. And I did walk in the parade yesterday too. Woohoo! And my president sang the national anthem. So, but I'm confused. So, we go to the presidential choice that we have. And they actually want us to be part of their delegation. So there's 2 parts to this. One is we can run on our own. It's a question. But we have to have a presidential choice. We can't run without that. That's one question.
Yes. So you can still actually run as an uncommitted delegate with no presidential preference, but that would mean you'd have to get 15% of the statewide voters to also vote for uncommitted in order to be sent to be a New York delegate.
Okay, so that's that.
That is a possibility, yeah.
Okay, so then the next part is, in the primary, we're for Mayor Pete. And that's who has put us up, or that's who we've assigned ourselves to. And then Mayor Pete doesn't win the primary. How does that work in the delegate going to Milwaukee?
Sure. So if you're a district level delegate and he gets more than 15% of the vote.
Oh, that's that thing you put up.
Yeah.
So he gets that. I get.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Hi, Gloria Winograd. I know this is not particularly about this, but I am really concerned about the census. And I am just wondering, when I go around and I talk to people, I would like to include some kind of plug for the census, even though I realize this is a meeting that this is not pertinent to that, but I am really concerned about the census. So that's sort of a question, a suggestion.
There are a lot of groups who share your concern, and there will be a lot of groups on the ground, just like there were a lot of went to court. I mean, very few things that Trump has tried to do hasn't happened. One was the reversal of the ACA, even though there are actually 1 million fewer people on health care today because of his sabotage of it. And secondly was he blinked when the courts, even the Supreme Court said, your reason for trying to put this question on is bogus, and you need to come up with another reason. And we were able, that whole community of civil rights advocates, to make sure that the citizenship question is not on the census. Now, the real issue becomes, because of the fear that is out there right now, and is will people be counted when they see someone with a US government designee going to their door? And that's a real fear. I mean, and part of all the fear with the raids and the ICE raids and whatever, that's a real fear. But there are many, many groups, including the UFT, who are working on the ground to try to actually get the rightful count.
Thank you.
And maybe there's a way too, Gloria, of coming up with language. If you're going to be talking to people for petitioning for presidential and district level, maybe there's a way to come up with language that can be used to at least plant the seed to get people. Yeah, exactly.
It's 2 things in 1 year.
Yeah.
There's a lot. It's a lot. It's you.
Oh, hi. Good afternoon. My name is Mavis Yawn, proud union member of UFT. First, I just want to thank Eleanor's Legacy for putting this together. This is really awesome. And I see a lot of women in here, and just remember, well-behaved women don't make history. So I'm looking for some outrageousness, right, as we do this. So my question is for me. So I was looking at the information about the petitions from within your district. So I am a person, I work within the community that I was born, which is Ocean Hill, Brownsville. I've never moved, I've always voted, and even though I don't live in my parents' home there, but I've always, everything I do is out there. But I live in another community. So for me, I have to get those signatures from where I live. Am I correct? Not where I voted. Well, I vote and everything is where I work and where my family is from. I've never changed it. And I work out there, but I live, I'm just saying, right, I want to be legit, no, I don't want to do anything that's wrong, right, so can I get my petitions from where, because I still vote there in District 44, where I'm registered to vote.
Where you're registered to vote is where you collect your signatures for running for district level delegate.
Okay, that's why I went for clarity. All right, thank you.
Absolutely. And just so everyone's aware, there is some changes in New York State election law thanks to the Democratic majority in the New York State Senate that many of us worked on. And some of those dates that are familiar to a lot of us who've been doing this for a few years about changing voter registration, party affiliation, some of those dates have changed. And so you want to also be sure you're up to speed on that for anyone who is going to be participating in the process in 2020 as well.
Is this what you hope?
Looks like, Lynn, you don't have one, right? Okay, to the left.
Hi, I'm Sherilyn Bailey from Staten Island, South Shore of New York, and I have a question. With the brouhaha over Elizabeth Warren's Native American heritage, you stated that someone that affiliates or is a Native American or whatever, what do they look for? Do you have to have a certificate that you are in the tribe, or you show your DNA and it shows Native American, or what? No. You know, because I do submit that I'm African American, Native American, but I don't have a certificate or anything. I just know, like Elizabeth, my family, and I did a DNA, and it does come up Native American and whatnot, but what are you looking for?
I think Chung maybe can take a crack at that.
It's not, we're not looking for DNA. But we are also looking for example, up in Seneca, the tribal leaders upstate to help us, one, look for individuals who can run at the district level, if not, to point us to individuals so that if they're interested to be delegates, we also get names from them. Again, if in fact you have family history, then it would be great if you can contact all the local tribes in New York State, make yourself known, just like you're making yourself known to a presidential candidate's campaign or New York City Club. It's the same process to get your name and who you are, who you identify with as a supporter, to be a delegate.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So again, I think what Randy says too, for all the union members, please. So I don't want to be like, it's not a joke, but we look for individuals who are going to, again, help us meet the goals that we've identified. So persons with disability, if you're a member of the LGBTQ community, unions, veterans. So if you're a member of any of those, please make that known. And you could do that, I think you could write it on your statement of candidacy as well.
And there's one on the left. Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Marlene Tapper, and I'm also the president of Progressive Democrats of America for New York State, and I'm a SAG member.
All right.
Just to say thank you for mentioning unions. I am a political consultant, and people hire me to get union endorsements and working, and I used to be a shop steward. That's how I first started out. Is that to show my age? But that it is important. But I want to piggyback on her just to say you're supposed to run for office where you're registered to vote and where you live. Anything else is illegal. There's no way around that. My question for you is, I do have some friends who want to run for the first time, who are not really politically engaged. And one girlfriend of mine is getting ready to move. So as you know, when you run for office, you have to reside in a district for a certain amount of time. For this purpose, how long would a person have to reside in their district prior to be able to get on the ballot?
That's a great question. I've never had that question asked.
Come on,
before.
Chung, I know you for years.
I do not believe that if you run for delegate, there's any residency requirements of length, but that you do have to show your place of voting, your domicile has to match Board of Election records, the address.
Yeah, your buff card, that's it. Okay.
And they have that info on the Board of Elections website. I also don't think it is one, but they have all the requirements.
No, I've been on the board, New York State and New York City. I don't see residency for this.
Probably because it was tied into the old registration date, which sort of guaranteed that year, you know?
Okay.
Remember, like, to be.
So you have to be a resident of the congressional district for 1 year?
No. I'm just saying there probably is nothing in writing regarding residency because of what our voting laws used to require more residency.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we're okay. So
there's nothing in writing.
But it's a good question. We can get an answer and we can post that.
Yes. Everyone ready to run? So I will follow up on the residency. I'll try to find out about the sort of consolidating that petition question that Betsy had and Gloria's about fundraising, and we'll send them out.